Hi, Ghosties. I'm Macy.
And I'm Natalie.
And that's Petey. The star of the show, as you say.
Yes, he truly is.
I love him being in here. It is a comfort to see him. Just relaxing and enjoying his life as we tell these scary stories.
He's a good boy.
We're going to need him today because we have a few pretty creepy listener stories.
Oh, goodness.
I wrote down just as I was going through, I was like, what are some, topics that we'll be discussing today? Here's what I wrote. Someone or something staring at you through the window at night. Peekaboo ghost.
Oh!
Residual haunting. Or a ghostly party.
Oh. Okay.
So, well, some intrigue here.
Weirdly enough, that's not our first, ghost party.
No.
So, okay. I'm intrigued.
You ready
and curious.
Get in? Our tea today is the kitchen witch, Aryavarta.
Sounds like a spell. Yes.
And it's so good. I think you said that last time, too.
Oh.
Because it does.
It really does. All right. Let's go.
Okay, we'll just jump right in here with our first story from Gabby. Hi guys, I don't know y'all's name yet, I'm sorry, but I just started watching y'all's YouTube vids for the Halloween season, and it's opened my eyes to a lot of things. I'm currently watching your paranormal story episode from your viewers and wanted to send some of mine in, and it's a lot, so sorry in advance, but they creeped me out in the moment. Part 1. Just for a little background info, my name is Gabby, and I live in Oklahoma. I'm someone who has always been interested in the paranormal and sensitive to it. As the older I've grown, the more things that are starting to happen. I've always been interested in SWs, Windy Boys, and mimics, all of that. As someone who is native and always wanting to learn about my culture and its lore. I am also someone who has very vivid dreams that always come true on top of stuff that has happened, forcing me to believe I am being haunted by something. This first story starts in my childhood home. I was probably 6 at the time. When I was a kid, I was very scared of my house. I didn't like going to the bathroom at night, whether it was when everyone was up or in the middle of the night. And if I did, I remember I would face the wall sitting sideways on the toilet and cup my hands on the sides of my eyes so I wasn't tempted to look at the window behind me in the bathroom, afraid of what I would find looking back at me.
Valid. Honestly, valid.
At my age now, I was thinking I was just a kid. Kids are afraid of everything, but to this day, at the age of 19, I'm still afraid of windows and the dark. So on this night, I remember me and my second oldest sister shared a room, and I was really thirsty but scared to go to the kitchen, because in the kitchen, we had a big window above the sink that showed into the garage port. And now that I'm thinking about it, I don't know why I went to the kitchen. I would have never went there. But I would have went to the bathroom to drink from the sink, not the kitchen, because I was more afraid of the kitchen than I was of the bathroom. So that leaves me to believe I felt drawn there for some reason. So I went to the kitchen, and of course, I kept my eyes down because I didn't want to see the window in case something was there. I turned on the sink and got my drink, and something just told me to look up. And when I did, I saw a man staring back at me. He was tall, and all I remember of him was he was wearing a plaid red and black flannel. I got so scared that I didn't even yell. I immediately turned around and ran to my mom's room right next to the kitchen and woke her up, telling her there was a man standing outside the kitchen window. Of course, my mother, thinking she's just a hero, even though she's only 5 feet tall, went to check outside, even when I begged her not to. She came back telling me there was no one out there. If you're wondering why my dad didn't go check, he would have, but at the time he worked overnight because he was a corrections officer. I still don't know to this day who it was, but when I look back to the kitchen window, he was gone and never came back, and my mom told me it was just my imagination. A lot of creepy stuff happened in that house. There's a side story of when I got older and my oldest sister moved out and I inherited her room. I was probably about 8 at the time. When my sister lived in that room, it was the typical 90s room. It had so many posters covering the walls that you couldn't even see the white original walls underneath. Her room never creeped me out. It was my happy place, really, but one item she had in that room was a green chair that rocked that her and my grandma picked up on the side of the curb. Backstory about my father, he was protective. It wasn't random of him to make room checks in the middle of the night to make sure we were okay. That's also why I believe that whatever that thing was standing outside the kitchen window wasn't human, because everyone on my block knew who my father was and was scared from his appearance, or because they knew we went to him for everything and it was known he'd kick kids out of our yard. So I never thought anything of it when I woke up to see a silhouette of a man in that same green chair in the corner of my room, sitting there, rocking back and forth. but now I have reason to believe that was never my father's body to begin with.
I think it is connected to the chair. Maybe the person that got rid of the chair, or the person that owned the chair passed away in the chair.
Oh.
And so the people were like, oh, we can't keep this chair. It's too
emotions tied to it.
Let's leave it outside.
I was wondering if the man outside the window was connected in some way to the man sitting there in their room watching.
I don't want that to be true because I don't want him to be able to come inside.
It's creepy.
It is really creepy.
I also would prefer it be a spirit than a real person standing outside the window watching to the house.
Dude, I was going to say the exact same thing. Oh my God. And you know what? This podcast really has ruined me because I was thinking about how I wanted to do my room in my new house. And I was like, oh, there's this little area. What if I put a little chair there? And I said, no chairs. No chairs. I can't put a chair facing the bed in any way.
Yeah, well, you just have to put stuff in it when you go to sleep.
Yeah, and
so
then
nothing can sit down and watch you.
I'll see the stuff and I'll be like, oh, I'll think it's a person.
Yeah, that happens to me sometimes. I have a little chair in my room and
that's so scary.
It's like with my little desk.
Mm-hmm. You're just asking for something to sit there.
Well, I always pile pillows in it. Part 2. This story starts when I was 12. It was after me and my family, consisting of my 2 older sisters and my older brother, and my mom and dad, moved from my childhood home into a nicer apartment, across from the apartments my oldest sister moved into. My second oldest sister, who was 18 at the time, was due to give birth to my nephew. We realized we didn't want a baby growing up in the dump that was my childhood home. This apartment was nice and didn't give me any bad vibes, except it being an unknown place. Though, now that I'm thinking about it, my childhood dog wasn't very comfortable when we first moved in. She would be restless for the first 2 days, which could correlate to the story, but we took it as her just not used to being in a new place, since my childhood home was also her puppyhood home. At this apartment, I was, most of the time, left home alone, since I was just a kid and had no plans. I remember this day vividly, and I'm still confused about what it could be. One evening, I remember I laid down for a nap and was abruptly woken up by my mother calling my name. It sounded like she was right in my ear. It wasn't the typical yell of someone calling your name from somewhere in the house when they needed you, but was the type of yell that only a mother could make, the high-pitched panic one they make when something went wrong or if you were in trouble. I shot up from my nap very confused and called out, "Yes?" And of course, mothers, they will always call you but never answer back when you called out. So I got up and walked out to the hallway, peeking my head out the door and again asked, "Yes?" and never got a response back. It wasn't until that moment that I realized I was home alone and my mother was at work where she wouldn't come home until later that night.
Of course. It always is that way.
It's that panicked sound though. Is that mimic or is that like they needed to be up at that time for some reason?
That, or, and this is where the Matrix episode ruined my life, is it like in a different dimension, something's going wrong and your mom's like, "Ah, Macy, come here," you know?
Yeah. We talked about that.
Scary.
What was that in the episode with Kayla where like you'd rather it be a mimic outside than your kid calling you from another dimension?
Yes, and you can't go help them.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's so scary to me. The Matrix episode really has ruined me.
Like shifted your entire like view on life.
Yeah, same with the Jinn one.
Really?
Yeah, just so many things because I started out obviously just thinking like all ghosts are the same. They're like unsettled spirits or whatever. But now I have like a completely different perspective.
Yeah, there are so many theories.
And I never
so many. And we
would have heard them.
Likely we'll never know which is the true theory. Or if
No.
they're all in some way, you know.
When I die, whatever happens,
You will know.
I will get the answers.
Okay. Part 3. Fast forward a year later, we moved out of those apartments and moved into another house. This house to me, as someone who grew up in a home that if you moved 3 feet, you were already in another room, was big. It was decent sized, or a below average size for most, but it was big to me. This house, I think, was the downfall to my family. And to this day, we call it the cursed house because we believe it changed our energies. There was a lot of heartbreak in that house. My mom showed me the house the night before we moved in, so I never got to see the outside features of it. But I know when we were moving in the next day, I was stuck staring at the tree in the front yard. It was the biggest tree on the block, but that wasn't what caught my attention. It was the eyes that were carved into it. I always told my family that there were eye shapes carved into that tree, all over it, so distinctive I could draw them out in a Sharpie, which I should have, but didn't. That was really the only red flag I got from that house. So this story takes place a year into living there. My family fell apart. One thing about my parents, they were in love. So it was very wrecking for me and my siblings when they sprung them getting a divorce onto us, because there was no sign whatsoever. So saving the sob story, briefly after that, my father left that house and my older sisters were moved out, and it just left me, my brother, and my mom in that house together, but distant. So I was alone mentally and physically all day, every day. I was 15 at the time. All I had left was my childhood dog, who my oldest siblings, a year later after the divorce, took to get put down. I was heartbroken and manic and blamed them all to the point they thought I was going to hurt myself. So because of that, my mother got me a new dog the next day, an Aussie who we can call Sir. It was hard bringing him home because all I saw was my room being my other dog's spot, and it quickly gave me a fear of my own room. But after a couple of days, I quickly got attached to him. That night, I woke up at 3 a.m. from a vivid dream. Sir was knocked out on his bed in the corner, and I had to go to the bathroom. At the time, I refused to get up at witching hour because, from past experiences, that's when something always went wrong, but I really had to go to the bathroom. Quick backstory, my oldest sister and her best friend had a podcast where one episode they told their scary stories, and I held on to one detail, which was when she said she felt this intense feeling of dread. She said that we would know it when it happens, but it was something she'd never felt before. So back to the story. That night, something was telling me not to get up from my bed because if I did, something very bad was going to happen. I have never felt something like that. Like this feeling had to be the type of dread she was talking about, but I really had to go to the bathroom. Getting up from my bed felt like I just climbed a mountain and finally made it to the top. It was like, okay, I got my feet on the ground, I can make it. So after hearing me get up, Sir also got up because he followed me everywhere, but this night I didn't want him coming to the bathroom with me. I don't know why, I just didn't. So at this time, my mother always kept her door shut, but she played music from her Alexa when she slept, and my brother also kept his door closed but had his TV blasting, so even with their doors closed, you could hear both of them, as if their doors were open. After I got up from my bed, the feeling went away, and I walked to the bathroom, but I will always be scared of walking to the bathroom at night, so I was still wary. Sir, not liking being locked in my room, was barking the whole time, and I was trying to hurry, but then that feeling came back. Like something wasn't right, and that something bad was about to happen to me. At the moment, all the noise in the house shut off. My dog stopped barking, my mom's music stopped playing, my brother's TV was silent, the house was silent. I was so scared I started to cry, and my eyes got bloodshot, and that's when I heard someone calling my name from the hallway in a taunting voice. Gabby. I literally stopped breathing because I was so scared to come out of the bathroom, but I knew I had to get back to my dog. The voice wasn't calling my name anymore, but the feeling was still there, so with as much courage as I still had, I attempted to open the door. But it wouldn't open, and I know I didn't lock it when I came in. Finally, I was able to swing it open, and suddenly all the noise in the house started again, and the feeling left. I could hear my mom's music, and my brother's TV, and my dog, who apparently never stopped barking, and now started clawing at my door. Not wasting any time, I ran back to my room and slammed the door shut. It felt like I was only gone for 10 minutes, and what literally sent shivers down my spine was, when I looked at the time, it was 5 a.m.
Oh my God.
I was stuck in that bathroom for 2 hours. Those were probably the scariest moments with the paranormal. I still don't know who it was, but my dreams have shown me its face. That's a story for another time. My brother was also having problems in that house with hearing footsteps and seeing things crawl at him from his bedroom floor. My mom and brother eventually also got themselves a dog. We eventually moved out of that house, and now I live with my father, but am still having premonitions and vivid dreams that get more real each time, and hearing my father's footsteps in his work boots in our hallway, even though I'm home alone and he's at work. Stuff like that. Sorry, these were so long.
Just casual stuff like that.
Yeah, I know.
No big deal.
To lose 2 hours like that, to be trapped in the bathroom hearing that taunting voice calling to you for 2 hours.
That is really, really scary. If I were to wake up and I heard someone calling my name, I don't know that I would keep moving or be able to do anything.
Yeah.
I genuinely think I would melt down to the floor
Just
and
become a puddle.
be a puddle. Yeah. I couldn't. My body would not allow me to
I think
move.
I would have ended up sleeping in the bathtub.
Oh, 100%.
Like, okay, door's locked. No one wants me out of here.
Dog.
Okay, that's fine. I'll be out.
Your dog.
I forgot about the dog. Yeah, that's tough. And it's a little puppy too.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, that's so scary. On to story 2, Christina. Hi, Ghosties sisters. I found your podcast a couple of months ago and have been obsessed ever since. Thank you guys for your time, kindness, and spookiness every week. I have a lot of ghost stories. I always tell people that if they stick around me long enough, they'll probably experience something too. I think this is because, like you guys, I grew up in a very haunted house. So for now, I will start at the beginning. I should also mention that I learned from my mother later on down the line that my childhood home was built on top of what used to be a brothel. My mom said that while they were doing construction for the house and leveling out the ground, they would find beer bottles, money, and panties mixed into the dirt. There was a bar turned real estate office 2 houses down the street. My mom told me that the men would go to the bar, then walk through a short path in the woods behind the houses to enter the brothel. So keep it on the down low.
Sneaky.
In my earliest memories of that house, I remember the feeling of being watched and hearing voices when I was alone. My brother and I would hear voices of men and women arguing late into the night. We would always assume that it was our mom and dad or that it was the TV. However, when we would walk out of our rooms to check on them, we would find them asleep in their room with the TV off. There were also quite a few shadow people and things in our house. I remember one night I was sitting in the living room with both of our parents watching TV. One of our dogs started barking to go outside. We told her that we would wait until there was a commercial as she kept barking to go out. All of a sudden, the sliding glass door opened steadily and swiftly all by itself. We all looked at each other, mouths agape, and not knowing what to say.
I mean, that to me is just kind of like maybe the people that lived there were dog lovers.
They're like, she said she needs to go outside.
Or they're like, shut up, get it out of here.
Oh, no. I like the first thought.
Yes, me too.
From that point on, my parents opened up to me more about the things they witnessed in the house too. They told me that there was a child shadow that would consistently watch my parents from the staircase while they were sitting in the living room. At first, they thought it was my brother or I sneaking out of bed, but when they would turn on the lights and check on us, we would be fast asleep. They said that this shadow would peek out from around the corner, and once one of them noticed it, it would quickly duck behind the wall. Almost like it was teasing them or playing peekaboo.
No thanks.
I would see shadows on my own too. When I was little, I slept with my door open. I felt comforted, knowing I could hear my dad snore and know that he was just across the hall if I needed him. The one that sits with me the most is when I saw my dead dog in the hallway. I saw him so clearly, but he was in all black and gray. It looked like Cody, but I knew it wasn't right, and that he wasn't real because his eyes were glowing an unnatural green. I remember thinking that I wanted to get up and pet him and hug him. I missed him so much, but the fear in my spine and stomach told me not to move. I started sleeping with my door closed after that.
The fact that you felt fear tells me that was not your dog.
No, it was like
something
a tactic.
It was something pretending to be your dog.
Yeah.
Because if it was Cody, you said? By the way, cute name for a dog. I love when dogs have just very human names.
Like Steve.
Yeah. Phil.
I call him Peter.
Yeah.
We all call him Peter.
But no, if it was really your dog, you would feel it. So
I
don't think that was your dog.
Around the age of 9 or 10, my parents sat my brother and I down together at the kitchen table and asked us to tell them about all the things that scared us about the house. At this point, we were both sleeping in my parents' room every night because we were too scared to sleep alone. We told them about hearing the voices and seeing shadows. We also told them about the weird and repeating dreams we had about being dragged out of our bed and having to fight for our lives. They told us that they noticed a lot of these things too, and that they were going to have one of our pastors come over to pray over our house. The day of, our parents asked us to stay upstairs while Pastor Dan prayed over our house. My brother and I sat in silence in his room while we listened to him begin to pray. I still remember hearing his voice and shoes wander around the house as he prayed and shouted at the spirits. The only sound in the house was his voice and his shoes. That is, until all of the 3 dogs we had started barking at the same time, almost like someone was at the house. They would not let up. My brother and I got scared and ran to my parents' bedroom. They had a window that looked out over the driveway, and we were looking to see if somebody else was there. When we looked out the window, there were at least 20 cats congregating on our driveway. This had literally never happened before, and I truly cannot explain just how odd and scary it was to see this. Pastor Dan finished praying, turned to my parents and said, "This is going to get a lot worse before it gets better."
Huh?
Thank you guys so much for reading my story. Traumatizing for real, but at least I have some cool stories out of it. I guess. Let me know if you would like to hear more. Happy Halloween. Much love and light, Christina.
Okay, so did it get worse?
That's exactly what I responded in the email. It's like, okay,
Did it
Pastor
get better?
Dan said it's going to get worse. Can you confirm?
Hello, tell us, please. Petey even raised his hand.
Yes, he's
He
like,
stretched out and he
"Excuse me,
said, I have questions.
I object to this."
What? And they didn't respond?
Not yet. Not that I've seen them.
What's their name?
Christina.
Christina! Please.
Yeah,
Please.
send in another email, please.
Oh my gosh.
Our next story comes from Marissa. Hi there, my name is Marissa. I just started watching your pod about a month ago and have been loving binging all your episodes. You two are the best. I have a few family stories to tell. My family on my dad's side are Hungarian, my grandfather's side, and Cherokee Native American, my grandmother's side. And we have a running joke that we experience frequent paranormal activity due to our Hungarian Romani heritage and the spiritual side of our Cherokee heritage. I mention this because in Hungary, they have many different superstitions and omens. For example, my grandfather was raised by his grandparents, and one day, while his grandmother was outside cleaning, she frantically ran inside to grab a broom and started yelling towards the roof of the house. A dove was flying around, and suddenly it landed on the roof. His grandmother dropped the broom and said in a mourning voice that someone in the family was going to die. And sure enough, they got a call the next day saying an uncle had passed away. My grandfather's most told paranormal story is that when his mother passed away, he knew because he woke up in the middle of the night and heard their front door open and slam shut. The next morning, he received a call explaining that his mother had passed, and he knew in his soul she had visited, as this has happened before with different family members experiencing the dearly departed when they've passed on.
I like that, actually.
Just a quick little like, hey, I guess I'm leaving, I'm moving on.
I like that, and I feel as though if I have that option, I would do it.
You'll slam
I'd
my
let
door?
y'all know.
Okay.
Not slam the door. You would know.
Okay.
Whatever it is, you would know.
Well, let's hope I never have to find out.
I hope not.
On September 19th, 2022, my grandfather passed away in the middle of the night. He was in the hospital after going through multiple surgeries for cancer, etc. I'm so sorry. However, my father, grandmother, and siblings all knew when it happened. That night, I had the hardest time sleeping. I was tossing and turning, and suddenly I passed out. My sister did the same. My brother and dad were up all night. My brother walked into the living room where my dad was and told him what time it was, which shocked my dad. It was like time had passed in a matter of minutes for them, and they passed out shortly after as well. However, for my grandmother, she was awoken by the sound of my grandfather's heavy boot footsteps walking up the ramp that leads to their front door. That morning, we got the call that he had passed away, and we all knew in our souls that he had. It was like we were all awake with him, waiting, and when he passed, we rested in peaceful sleep as he drifted off into the next life. I have plenty more stories, but these are my more tame ones for Natalie's sake.
Oh, thank you. Those are actually
Nice.
very beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that.
I like the visual of all of them like tossing and turning, not being able to sleep, and then when he passed on, they all just
Everybody
rest.
can rest, and he's resting too. Oh, wow.
I know, emotional.
Yeah, a little bit.
Our next story comes from Rosie. Hey, I just want to start by saying I'm a new subscriber to your YouTube channel and have been loving your videos. I want to share my own paranormal experience from when I was a kid. At the time of these experiences, I was really young, about 5 or 6 years old, so I can't remember much other than always feeling scared of being in my old home, especially alone. During this time, though, I was learning to sleep by myself in my brother's room. I was always afraid of the dark, so I'd have a nightlight on, but I could never go to sleep. I felt so uneasy, as if I was being watched. I would run to my mom's room and beg to sleep with her for the night. Of course, she would let it slide. Years later, I'm a bit older. I was about 14. By this time, I was in middle school. We had already moved out of the old house and were living in an apartment. Our room was on the second floor with a balcony leading to the view of the patio. I remember being on FaceTime with a friend as we were pulling an all-nighter. It was around 10 p.m. Me and my friend were just chatting when all of a sudden I heard a loud banging from the balcony sliding door. I want to add that the balcony is on the second floor and has no curtains. I had a clear view of the balcony and no one was there. I mean, I was beyond terrified. It was so loud my friend heard it over the phone. I ran out so fast I made the Roadrunner look like a joke. My mom was downstairs, so I ran to her, but I didn't tell her about it as I was afraid she would think I was crazy. I never told her about it until now that I'm way older. There were times where I would hear her call my name and I'd respond back thinking nothing of it. I mean, she used to do it all the time, but this time she wouldn't answer back, just kept yelling my name. I got frustrated, and when I finally went downstairs to ask what she needed, she would look at me crazy and said she never called for me. It happened often, so eventually I told her about it, and she told me that if I ever heard it again, to not answer or to pretend I didn't. That's the end of the story. I enjoy your content very much. I look forward to watching more of your videos. Yours truly, Rosie.
Oh my God. Okay.
At least mom knows. Like, just don't answer.
True. Would you tell your kids something like that? Okay. At what age? Because I know you would. At what age would you tell your kids, hey, don't respond unless you know it's me?
Well, I mean, definitely 14. Yeah. Be like, listen, I know a lot about the paranormal.
Yeah.
The rule is, no, you didn't.
Yeah. I mean, your daughter likes creepy stuff.
Yeah.
She literally was just telling me, like, I like weird things. Weird things make me happy.
She said that?
Yes. She said, so she will be with it. Your son, however, I feel as though he will also be, like,
Scared?
shrinking into a puddle or freezing.
Yeah.
Like us.
Yeah.
I think your daughter will be like, oh, let's go investigate it.
Here, how about it just doesn't happen to us? That'd be good.
Very good point. Very good point.
Our next story comes from Ella. Hello, I'm a fairly new listener and have been listening in for a few months. I love watching the pod when I'm getting ready for work in the mornings. This story didn't happen to me personally, but to my older sister. So a bit of background, my grandmother passed in 2010, and it devastated the family. A couple months after her death, my sister was drifting in and out of sleep when she swears she felt a dip in the bed, like someone had sat on the bed. Also, feeling whatever it was, lean over and stroke her hair. This abruptly woke her up, and she swears to this day that it was our grandmother visiting her and saying her final goodbye.
Beautiful, but just letting you know, I won't be doing that.
Not in the sleep.
My sign that I'll send will be much less horrifying.
Okay, good. Yes, please don't stroke my hair in your sleep. What? In my sleep?
Yes, I will be stroking your hair in my sleep.
I wouldn't put it past you, honestly.
What?
You're a weird sleeper.
That's true.
This is a tame story that happened to me personally, as I thought I'd just include this after hearing you both talk about shadow figures. After my grandmother passed away, our granddad moved in with us for a couple of weeks and stayed in my old bedroom. Shortly after he moved back into his and my grandmother's old house, he committed suicide as my grandmother passing completely broke him. A couple of years ago, I moved back into the bedroom my granddad had stayed in, and every night before I went to sleep, I swear I saw him as a shadow figure in the corner of my room facing my bed. I never felt fear, but I wasn't exactly comfortable. But I do think that was him watching over me. Thank you so much for reading. Feel free to share this on the podcast. Keep doing what you're doing, Ella. First of all, Ella, I'm so sorry that you lost both your grandparents and one in such a tragic way.
That is very traumatic, but I don't know how I feel about the not being afraid of it, but not feeling comforted. Is that just because it was truly him and you're like, hey, why are you standing in my room? That makes me feel a little weird.
I feel like maybe it's just, it doesn't feel dark.
Yeah.
Like you're not getting like negative vibes, but like you said, like you just kind of don't want something strange, a shadow figure, something, the unknown, just watching you while you sleep. Like
Very true.
That would make me, if anyone
Regardless.
walked up to me and was looking at me while I was sleeping or trying to go to sleep, that would make me uncomfortable.
That is true. So, interesting.
So that's my thought. I don't know.
Interesting take, because a lot of the time, not every time, but a lot of the time people are like, oh, I knew it was my brother and he was watching me and so I felt comfort. But
yeah, but that one's just kind of like, please don't.
I'd be more in this camp where I'd be like, all right, I see you and I don't want to. Please
Come
don't
back
watch me.
at another time.
Or watch me
invisibly.
A shadow figure-esque.
Yeah, maybe. Our next story comes from Alayna. Hello. First of all, I love the podcast and thank you so much for creating it. So proud with how far you guys have come. Anyways, I have a few stories, but not all of them are my own. I should have started off with this, but my name is Alayna and I am 18 years old. My family is from northern Michigan. For this first story, I don't even know what to call it. Me and my younger sister used to share a room. We had wooden bunk beds, and at the time, I was on the top bunk. On the top bunk, there was a small window that looked out at the backyard. We used to have bonfires, and family and friends would all sit around, but with how young I was, I never got to be awake until everyone left. One night, or morning, I woke up. The first thing I did was check to see if anyone was outside by the fire. I saw the fire still burning, and I saw people sitting around the fire in their chairs. I couldn't tell if it was night or very early morning, so I jumped out of bed to go sit with my mom at the fire. I walked outside of the house, and when I turned the corner to the backyard, there was no fire, only smoke. Nobody was out there. I called out for my mother, but no answer. After realizing that nobody was there, I still had an overwhelming feeling of being watched. I ran back inside the house, absolutely terrified. Later on, my parents woke up and I asked them where they went because I saw everyone out there and my mom looked at me very confused. I ended up chalking that experience as a crazy dream. Now, years later, me and my sister were talking about all of the crazy and scary dreams we've had. My stomach dropped when my middle sister described the exact same dream to me. Note, I had moved out of the room with her when my youngest sister got out of the nursery. My room was no longer facing the backyard. That story still gives me chills to this day.
Do you think it was maybe one, residual, because they all hung out there a lot. Maybe it's just their energy just kind of hangs around. Or was it previous people that used to do that, and so it's like they're still haunting it? They're still
What
living.
did I say in the intro? Residual haunting or ghostly party?
That's the ghostly party.
Yeah.
What do you hope it is?
I don't know. Probably residual energy, just good times, but I find it cooler to think that there's like a party, like a little spirit bonfire.
I like that too. I'd rather it be that.
Kind of like they're all just hanging out.
Yeah.
This next story is after we moved south, still in Michigan. We moved to a small town where everyone knows everything about everyone. I went to a small school and I only had a graduating class of about 23-ish people, and 4 of those were exchange students. Anyways, when I was in about 5th grade, I used to go to a tutor. Now, obviously, I couldn't drive and my parents couldn't get us from school because of work. So my sisters and I would have to go to Latchkey, kind of like school babysitters located in the elementary school. I was just finishing up tutoring and I was going to find where everyone was. It was the middle of winter, so nobody was going to be outside. So they were either in the gym, computer lab/library, or they were in the music room. I walked past the gym. Nobody was in there. I went to go to the music room to drop off my backpack, and when I rounded the corner to walk in, I heard the chimes going off. Sometimes the director of the latchkey would let the responsible kids be in groups by themselves, so I figured that there were only a few girls in there. Nobody was in the main part of the room, so I figured that they were in the closet with the chimes. So, when I walked in the room, the chimes were still going off, and I said, "Hello? Who's in here?" As soon as I said that, the chimes automatically quit. They didn't fade away, they automatically stopped again. I asked who was in the room with me. No response. I thought that they were trying to scare me, so I walked back into the closet and I checked every single shelf in there. I checked behind the chimes and the whole room was empty. The school couldn't afford air conditioning, so I knew it wasn't any air coming in, especially since the doors were closed. After I realized nobody else was there, I felt a very unsettling feeling, and I ran like I've never run before until I found everyone. I told the director what happened, and she laughed at me and didn't believe me. That will forever haunt me, and I refuse to go back into that school. I do have some more stories, but I will save that for another time. I love how you both make your listeners a part of the podcast. It makes us feel like we are in this with you. Thank you again, Alayna.
Thank you. Y'all are in it with
I feel
us.
like y'all are in it with us, so.
Same, but,
It's interesting how the chimes just completely stopped. Like, it wasn't like a tinkle, like a slow fade. It was just like
they've
no
been
sound.
taught.
Yeah.
Any school, regardless, it could be a brand new building.
We talk about this like all the time, yeah.
It's haunted, and I have just come to accept that, and we all just have to accept that. If there is a school of any kind, there's some type of haunting going on.
Whether it's residual or like intelligent haunting.
Why is that?
I feel there's something. Again, I don't know, but my guess is just emotions, you know?
Yeah, a converging of so many different
People,
lives.
like same thing with like hotels.
Ugh.
They just like see so many people
True.
every day.
Creepy.
Okay, our next story is unsigned, so anonymous. Hey Ghosties, we have some stories for you guys. Natalie, get your blanket ready. A lot of these stories are going to come from my mother, as she was there for most of them, and I am still relatively young, so I was not there. To put it into perspective, we are multi-generational witches, so here are several just from our life. First story is from Mom. So I have an uncle who passed away. He was trained by my great-grandmother Barden. Everyone just called her Grandmama Barden, and she was a witch. He was a witch, and when he passed away, because he did not marry or have children, my aunt, his youngest sister, was his heir. She is a minister, as is her husband. Well, I should say was, because her husband has since passed away as well. But the book of shadows that belonged to my uncle was not something a minister should have on their coffee table, so she gave it to my mother. This was in the early to mid-90s, and my brother found the book quite by accident. He was just rooting around in the house and came across it. He didn't know what it was, but thought it was interesting, so he and a few of his friends decided to take it to a cemetery on Halloween night. My brother was about 16 at the time. They lit the candles, and as they did the chant, all of a sudden, the grave started opening. The dirt starts coming out, and they freak out, snatch up the book, and go to the nearest payphone. They called my mother, who called me at the time. My daughter was still very young, and I left her in the care of my husband, her dad, and his grandparents, and I met my mother at the cemetery. The first thing I noticed was there was no salt circle. I brought salt and put out the salt circle because it's like a barrier and it cannot be crossed. Then my mother and I went through the book quickly, found a spell to counteract what they had done, performed the ritual, had to walk with our shins, which I absolutely hate doing, and then made my brother and his friends shovel the dirt back onto the grave. We went home and my mother took the book and threw it on the grill and lit the thing on fire. We lost a wonderful family artifact. I had not even been able to go all the way through it or get anything copied from it, which really upset me. The only thing I have left of my uncle now is a ring and some stories, and nobody will get that ring until I die. We have more stories, but this is it for now. Let us know if you want to know more, and we'll see you guys on the podcast. Have a good night.
I would like to know more. Also, the fact that the book was gone.
I know. As soon as they said threw it in the fire, I was like, no.
Same. I felt deeply affected.
Just keep it away from the brother.
Yeah, just lock it up. Like, oh, you got to keep cool things. You know, that is something that I hope to one day have. Not a book of shadows, but
yeah,
like some kind of nice heirloom or something that, you know, people keep around and be like, oh, this was great Aunt Natalie's prized
possession of some kind.
Yeah, I could not think of anything cool, but yeah, because I don't have anything that's like, you know, cool.
Yeah, no, I feel you.
I need to come up with something. Maybe one day I'll like have a custom like necklace made of some kind, and then it can just be passed from generation to generation.
I'll spread a rumor that it's cursed.
Oh, it will be. I will be attached to it. So whoever wears it,
that's ridiculous.
if you wear it, you'll be seeing me. That's actually a good idea.
Okay, I'm sorry I put that idea into your head.
To do.
And I'll make sure that my children never go near it.
It will go to your daughter first.
Good Lord. Anyway, that's evil.
No, not in a bad way.
It's going to be cursed and I'm giving it to your daughter first.
Cursed by me. I will be attached to it.
A curse is a curse, dude.
I will be attached to it. Nothing scary. Just me.
Okay, so our next story comes from Kai. Dear Ghosties Pod, hello. Yes, you can use my name. I will go by Kai for the sake of the stories. I have a few different stories for y'all today. I will add a little backstory before each one to help it make more sense. Thank you for reading, and I will begin the stories. Story 1, Baby in a Jar.
Oh.
So, warning.
Okay.
It's exactly what you think it is.
Oh.
Yes, you read that correctly. So, there's a big reason I believe my house is haunted. I was raised by my father's parents because my step-siblings were physically abusive. And about 3 months after moving back into their house, my uncle crawled under the house to check some water pipes. He crawled all the way up our slope and where the skinniest part of the yard was. He saw something slightly shiny. He brought it out, and it was a jar with a rusted lid. He couldn't twist the lid off, so we had to break it open. As soon as the jar was hit with a hammer, we all were shocked and silent as a baby, not even bigger than an apple, fell on the ground. You could do some research on it, but apparently carnivals back in the 1900s gave away babies in a jar as a prize. We called the non-emergency line and turned it into the police. And that's what, I guess, started all their hauntings.
I didn't know that was a thing.
No, I didn't look it up, but that sounds horrific.
Oh my god. I don't know what to say about that.
Early 1900s, people were weird. Late
What?
1800s. I don't know. I guess people have been weird for eternity.
I mean, yeah, people have always been doing some weird stuff, but oh my goodness.
Yeah, I hate that. Story number 2, Ghost at my grandmother's house. This takes place at my grandmother's house on my mother's side of the family. I was sitting on the couch playing with Snapchat filters. I accidentally flipped the camera and immediately snapped a photo because in that photo, I had caught my great-grandmother's face. The photo is completely clear, except for a transparent face caught near the window. And yes, I sent it to you both. You can show it on the podcast as well.
Yes.
I am very horrible at seeing faces and things in pictures. Like, I think I can kind of see the outline.
Okay,
but
zoom in.
I'm very bad at this. So we'll put it in the video. So if y'all see it, let us know. Because I am very bad at looking at things like that.
Oh, I'm bad at finding things like that. So what I need is for someone to screenshot that and then draw it out for me.
Yeah.
Yes, because then I'll see it.
Yeah, after you point me very, very directly to it.
Yes.
Story 3, grandmother. Trigger warning, before this story begins, there will be mentions of suicide and a knife, so please skip if things like this are hard. When I was 13, I had a ton of things happen in my life. I hadn't been diagnosed yet, but would later find out that this reaction was a result of BPD, bipolar, and CPTSD. I had a really bad mental breakdown because I experience emotions a lot more intensely than others do. I grabbed a very sharp knife, and that's when it occurred. My grandfather's mother appeared to me and said, "Sweetheart, I know it hurts, but please don't make the same mistake I made." She had killed herself with a shotgun in our driveway when my dad was still very young. I didn't know this beforehand. I put the knife back in the drawer and immediately went for comfort from my grandparents. To get that message when you didn't even know
Yeah.
that she had done that herself.
It's very sad, but it's kind of a little bit beautiful, maybe?
Yeah, I mean, it's like a light in the darkness that it was there to like say, hey,
Don't do it.
don't do this,
Oh, wow.
which I think is beautiful. And
Yeah.
I'm sorry that you went through so much and you were having such a very difficult time. in
Same,
your
but
life.
I'm glad you're still here.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah, glad you're still here. Story 4, kitchen ghost. I want to apologize in advance because this is where I started to experience the scary things. When I was 7 years old, I was asleep in my bed. Now, to preface this, I live in an old mill house. The only bathroom of the house is in my bedroom. I am also connected to the kitchen and my grandparents' room, thank God. I awoke for an unknown reason, and when I opened my eyes, a lady was standing in my doorway to the kitchen doing the arm movement as she was ushering me to come to her. I remember her clearly. She was wearing a green pioneer dress with a white apron. She didn't scare me or feel evil, but I was in disbelief as this was my first ghost experience. I called my nanny until she answered, asked if she was in the kitchen, and when she said no, I did the correct thing. I turned around and went right back to sleep because that's not my problem or job.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Snaps for you. Yes.
Story 5, Dad's Closet. Natalie, I am going to personally apologize to you because you will really hate this. When I was around 7 to 9 years old, I can't exactly remember, I was being bullied by my step-siblings. Remember when I mentioned earlier that they abused me? Well, this is one of those times. They grabbed me and stuffed me in the upstairs insulation closet. It was a really small space and completely dark with no light. They shoved me in and locked the slide lock shut. I was screaming to get out when suddenly I felt an energy beside me. I didn't physically feel anyone, so I started to scream again. That's when the traumatizing thing occurred. Remember that story you had about the gummy smile? I heard the same thing right beside my ear, where I felt the energy. I started to kick and scream 10 times louder as this thing said, "Hello," in a drawn-out sing-song voice. My dad opened the door. I ran out of the entire house screaming. I still haven't told anyone what I heard.
I'm not well.
Are you sickened?
I am disgusted.
Well, they apologized beforehand, so.
Well, thank you. This is now the third gummy smile story I have heard in my life, and I don't like it.
No, I also don't like it.
2 on the pod, 1 on Trixie Mattel's YouTube video.
Yeah.
Where she did a seance in the house.
That's gross. I also don't like that it continued on. It like smiled and then it like was like tauntingly like, "Hello.
No.
You're in my space now, I guess."
No.
Also, I'm very sorry that you had to go through that with your siblings because that is awful.
Oh,
and
that's
horrible.
Really terrible.
Story 6, my best friend's house. This was one of the scariest experiences of my life. When me and my best friend get together, we are like a magnet for paranormal things. Her and her 5 dogs were asleep. I was awake because my stomach was hurting. I have horrible stomach issues. I need to emphasize this was not sleep paralysis because I had full movement of my body. I sat up about to go to the restroom when suddenly I looked over at the wall. This wall is connected to her brother's old room. There is something extremely evil in that bedroom. I watched as a really dark, black, shadowy figure pulled itself through the wall and stretched to jump towards me. But it couldn't fully get through because it was like something was holding it back. It tried this several times before the wall completely pulled it back through. I woke up my best friend completely shaking and I went home because no thank you.
As you should. As you should.
Sick. Story 7, SW. Thank you in advance if you've read this far. This is the last story I can currently remember. My best friend and I were together again for this story. We went to a place called Crybaby Bridge in Anderson, South Carolina. Macy, you would enjoy doing research because there are several in the US. My friend and I decided to go at night. Dumb. We arrived at the bridge and got out of her vehicle. If you look, the bridge is at the side of the newly built bridge. This is important to the story. As we are standing on the newer bridge, we suddenly hear what sounds like a kitten meowing. But I felt uneasy as it sounded like a human making the meowing noises. As it suddenly got around 5 feet from the car in the woods, I immediately made my friend get back in the car with me and lock our doors. We drove off but had to turn around and drive back through because that was the only route back to her apartment. As we drove through, we saw a humanoid figure crawling across the road, still meowing. We didn't sleep that night. Thank you both so much for reading my stories. I hope they were entertaining. I'm sorry, Natalie, if I made your stomach hurt. I hope you both enjoyed them. They were very surprising and traumatizing to experience. Again, I love the podcast. Never stop being amazing, Kai.
My whole body just went numb.
Still meowing.
I deflated. And my stomach does hurt. Thank you.
That one kind of reminded me of that story where they saw the like humanoid-esque thing with like, was it like webbed hands or maybe like webbed between their arms or something on the ground when they went out to a bridge or a tunnel or something. Do you remember this?
No, and I don't want to.
Oh, where was it? Maybe it was in Ohio though. I don't remember, but it was a listener story and they had something similar. And I mean, it couldn't be an SW because those are, you know, in the NA territory, like in the Four Corners area. But there are so many stories like this of things like mimicking animal noises or voices of people and just like crawling around through the forests and stuff. And I don't like it at all.
No, I don't like it either. And I think the scarier option is that some man was just out there meowing and crawling around. And I am
you know what?
Sickened.
Yeah.
I am sickened. I would rather
scarier.
I would rather it be some kind of creature than a person crawling around meowing, because that is
in the middle of the night too.
Disgusting. Because the only thing you could be trying to do is lure people to you.
Yeah.
Oh my God. And guess what? I'd fall for it. I'd be like, let's find the kitten.
No.
I would be like, oh my God, it needs us.
But they did say it sounded like a person meowing.
True. Oh my God.
Side note to maybe make your stomach not hurt anymore. Have you seen those videos of the guy who like teaches you how to speak to your cat? And he's like, how to say come here is like, meow, or something like that.
No.
And a bunch of people tried it and their cats came to them.
That is really awesome. And I believe it.
So really try it. I don't remember. That might have been what he said, but it was weird.
Look into that, guys. Cat people, get back to us.
Let me know if you know cat language. Our next story comes from Dakota. Hi, girls. First of all, thanks for your podcast. What an enrichment you are to the internet. Thank you. That's so nice. It's hard finding like-minded girls, and listening to you makes me feel less alone in my interests. So, safe to say, you're my new favorite internet comfort girlies. That's nice.
Thank you.
As for this message, I didn't think I would send this in, but because it honestly seems so unserious compared to other stories you read. But I am so enjoying your listener stories that I just went for it. So, here we go. During my last year of high school, my parents rented out an apartment for me to stay in, since the city my high school was located in was quite a distance away from my parents' house, and they thought I should save the energy of commuting and put it into my studies. Just as a side note, I live in Europe, so some things might be a bit different here compared to the US. I was about 17, grew up in a somewhat remote area, and spent a lot of time alone outdoors in nature, even at night. So it's safe to say, I was never really scared of anything, not even people. Not like in a cool way, more like in a naive way of not understanding the dangers of this world. Long story short, living by myself didn't scare me. My parents and I looked at a couple of apartments, but ended up going for the one that was located the closest to my high school. The building wasn't old, at least it didn't seem like it. It was very modern, with big windows and a couple of stories, which is rare to find in Europe. The lower floors were filled with offices, while the top 2 floors were apartments. One thing I should mention before moving in, our real estate agent urged us to think about the location of the apartment. As I mentioned, it was very close to my high school, but right between the school and the apartment was an area that had quite a reputation. It was filled with nightlife. That's all I understood. As a mom herself, the real estate agent urged me to not leave the apartment at night, especially not alone, and be very cautious when crossing through this area. Like I said, I wasn't scared at the time, and given my age, I think I also didn't understand the implications of what somewhat shady nightlife meant. Nonetheless, I thankfully never encountered anything bad regarding the nightlife situation myself. But since you brought up the importance of backstories in our last episode, I thought it was worth mentioning. Plus, I honestly forgot about all of that until sitting down and pondering what could have happened in this place that had me have the following experiences. Thank you, because I love a good backstory.
I do too.
I remember from the first moment I was alone in the apartment, something felt off. I have never experienced something like that in my life, but as soon as my parents or friends were gone, I had this weird feeling I couldn't shake. I started having this uneasy feeling whenever entering or just thinking about being alone in that apartment. Like I said, I was never really all too scared, but this feeling over time worked on me. That I started to double check if the door was locked. It was a very secure building, and if any intruder would try to enter it, they would have had to go through 5 different locked doors, but still, I just wanted to make sure. The first weird and more tangible thing that happened, besides the weird feeling I have had whenever entering the place, was whenever I went to check the door at night. This wasn't something that happened once or twice. This happened pretty much every single time I went to check if the door was properly closed at night. As a side note, I never met any of my neighbors throughout my time living there. The only sign of someone living in the apartment next to me were the shoes they would leave out in the hallway, but never did I see or hear a single soul in that hallway. So anyways, when checking the door, I would always open the door and close it shut again, put in the key and lock it several times, push it to see that it was firmly closed, and pull at the door handle to see if it would open again. I started to be a bit OCD with the door because the eerie feeling got to me. Whenever I would let go of the door handle and calm myself down, I heard a couple faint, airy knocks from the other side of the door. It happened every single time. Even when I checked it twice at night, the knocks would always be there. I never opened the door because I am not completely stupid. I would just try not to make a single sound and quietly go to bed. As I did that one evening, it was a typical evening of finishing schoolwork and working out, and then preparing for bed. I don't remember much of that evening, to be fair. That's how routine it was. The eerie feeling lingered in the air of the apartment, and the knocks on the door were part of the routine at this point. I was used to being scared to a degree where I was scared of going to sleep alone. I always tried to rationalize it and tell myself that it's probably just because I am living by myself for the first time, or that was a weird version of homesickness. It didn't really help, but it was better than philosophizing about what was happening. Most of the time, I had one of my friends stay over to keep me company. This one night, I was alone. I just remember being extra cold and extra scared, so my plan was to put on my favorite PJs and socks, wrap myself up in blankets, and doze off. I settled in bed and wrapped myself up in 2 big blankets, which I tucked underneath my socked, clothed feet, so that no cold air was touching me and I was nicely packaged and warm, like a burrito. I hope you know what I mean.
That's how I sleep every night, so I do know what you mean.
I would sleep like this pretty much every night and wake up still nicely tucked away in the exact same way as I went to bed. I am a very calm sleeper. I have always been, and don't move much during sleep. That night I was completely gone. No waking up during the night or dreams. It was one of those nights where 8 hours felt like 5 minutes. I woke up, laying exactly the way I fell asleep, facing the door, feet tucked. But as soon as I opened my eyes, I saw one of my socks that I put on last night, laying right in front of my face. Like I said, my sleeping position is still the same. The feet still tucked the same. Just the one left sock was not on my foot anymore, but right beside my head. I laid there for a moment, trying to comprehend and rationalize how that must have happened. But like I said, the night flew by like 5 minutes. It felt like I didn't move a centimeter. But that one sock somehow made its way up to my pillowcase. I know it might sound funny, but let me tell you, as soon as I opened my eyes and saw that sock, I felt dread and danger in a way that I have never experienced my whole life. Like you girls mention a lot, sometimes people see actual shadows and shapes, but feel calm or comforted. I saw my own sock and I was terrified. That kind of terrified you feel heavy in your chest and running through your veins. After concluding that I would not be able to make sense of this, I just got quickly ready and left for school. I never enjoyed going to school, but that day was the only day I was relieved to see my classmates again. Even while recalling this memory, I don't know if I should laugh or cry. Laugh about how ridiculous it sounds, or cry because of how terrified I was. Either way, I hope the story was worth your time reading, and of course, you can include it into your listener stories if you feel like it. Thanks again for your work and effort. Lots of love from Europe, Dakota.
Hey, valid.
I would be horrified.
Honestly, because
especially you woke up in the exact same position. Like, that's what gets me. Like, if it was me, like, I toss and turn at night.
Yeah.
If my sock ended up somewhere, okay,
Sure.
Could happen. But if you're tucked, wrapped, burrito, packaged up
Yeah.
in your bed,
yeah.
and you haven't moved a muscle, that's weird.
we're moving on too quickly from the knocks on the door.
Okay, yeah. That too was
Because
freaky.
Huh?
Okay, so for skeptics' sake, maybe there was a way that the door, like the pressure in the hallway versus the room, and it like kind of like shifted a little every time it was locked.
No.
No?
I don't know.
That's just a one possible explanation in my mind.
I mean, I hope, but I don't feel very hopeful in that that little tidbit.
No. I wonder, okay, was the sock the only weird thing that ever happened?
No.
I mean, aside from the weird feelings.
No. I feel like there was more, and if they think about it a little bit, there had to have been other little things.
Like maybe they didn't notice in the moment.
Also, just living by yourself at such a young age,
That is scary.
that's really scary. Even
Yeah.
though you said like, oh, I wasn't very scared, I'd be scared.
I was scared for you.
I'm scared living or like being by myself in the house now.
When I moved out the first time, I don't know, it was my sophomore year of college, and I lived with 3 other roommates, and I was still scared all the time.
Because you can't go to them and be like, I'm scared. Can we sleep in the same room?
No, well, that wasn't even it. It was just like, I don't know, just that feeling of being alone for the
Alone.
first time. Yeah.
Yeah,
Dakota, that was creepy.
it was invalid.
And a little, only tiny bit funny.
A little bit. A little bit.
Okay, here's our last story. Hi, Macy and Natalie. My name is Sarah. I'm a pretty new listener and absolutely love your podcast so much. I thought I'd share one of my ghost stories. It's kind of a long one, but I realized I've never really told anyone else, at least not the full story, and wanted to share it with you. This happened about 10 years ago, but I still remember it so vividly. I've also got pictures and a map. Anyway, here it goes. A little bit of background / context before getting to what happened. The church I grew up in ran a girls' summer camp for ages 12 to 17. I started going when I was 12, but when I was 13, my mom became the new camp director. The campground was located in the Lake Tahoe National Forest in Northern California. The forest was full of old pine trees, and the lake had a short boardwalk, canoes, and a rope swing. There was a huge outdoor dining hall in the center of the camp, and about 25 cabins of varying shape and size spread out around it. The main cabin, the founder's box den, was a 2-story cabin for the camp director, my mom, and the 17-year-old girls who helped run the camp with her. Most of the cabins were less cabins and more outdoor sheds with plywood bunks. The 12 to 14-year-olds stayed in these with their adult counselors, as well as the 16-year-olds who became mini counselors under the adults. The 15-year-olds, however, had 2 nice cabins reserved just for them. A smaller A-frame cabin we called Gray Owl Roost that had a wrought iron door, screen door combo, and much nicer bunk beds, and a 2-level, solid wood cabin with a deck and running electricity that we called Hawk Haven. Everybody wanted to be in Hawk Haven, and those lucky enough to end up in it bragged to those who weren't. But I hated that cabin, even before my story happened. The floorboards in Hawk Haven were laid in such a way that there was some space between each board, big enough that spiders and other creepy crawlies could come up through, and big enough that you could shine a flashlight and see the crawl space / forest floor below. Some spaces were just big enough to even poke a finger through.
Oh no.
And the crawl space was definitely big enough for someone to fit under.
Oh, I already don't like this. This is enough. This is scary enough.
Well, yeah, the end.
Yeah, that's it.
We always provided tarps for the campers to lay down over the floorboards, but since there were no bunks in Hawk Haven, you'd still be sleeping on the floor. From what I heard, most people chose to sleep on the second, much more cramped floor. I'd never been inside that cabin, but just walking past it made me feel uneasy. I told people it was because of the bugs, but in reality, I was the kind of kid who'd catch frogs with my hands. The bugs wouldn't really faze me. I just hated Hawk Haven. Here's where the story really starts. When I was 15, my mom asked me which cabin I'd prefer to be in. Perks of being the director's daughter. I don't even think she finished asking the question before I said Gray Owl Roost. You could hear and see everything through the screen door, and the screen windows made it freezing at night, but at least it wasn't Hawk Haven. Because my mom was camp director, I always went up to camp a day earlier than the other campers and helped her, the 17-year-olds, and most of the adult staff get camp set up for everyone else. Since I was the only one there who'd be in the Owl Roost, my mom asked if I wanted to sleep in the founder's cabin with her and the older girls that night. I remember that I said yes at first, since that made the most sense, but immediately felt so strongly that she and I needed to be in my cabin. I told her what I felt, and she agreed to stay with me for the night. That night, I remember waking up to what sounded like girls singing or laughing in the distance. My mom told me to go back to sleep, that it was just campers being dumb. We woke up again. This time, the singing was louder and frantic. We could hear clear enough now to know they were children's songs. My mom and I looked at each other and remembered that there weren't any other campers here, just me. She told me to get up and get my shoes on, that we needed to go check on the counselors staying in Hawk Haven. I remember grumbling, thinking, really, must we, Mother? But I trusted that she was right and got up anyway. I slipped on my shoes, but because I'd left the laces tied when I took them off and couldn't be bothered to untie and retie them, I wore them halfway on my feet with the heels crushed. Stepping out of our cabin, we could see Hawk Haven just to our right. There were no windows on the front of the cabin, at least on the first floor, but we could see the lights were on, peeking through the cracks of the front door. As we walked closer, we could hear the singing was obviously coming from the cabin. My mother opened the door to the cabin and stepped in first. I followed and immediately froze, leaving the door open behind me. The air was colder inside the cabin than it was outside. I knew my mother was talking with the counselors who had hidden themselves upstairs, but I could no longer hear her or them. I could only hear my heartbeat. I felt a way I have never felt before and have never felt since. It was like my spirit and my body were disconnected. I felt numb and empty and cold, but I knew I was supposed to be afraid. I stood there much like a deer in headlights, knowing innately that I was in danger, but with no real understanding of how, why, or what. All I could see were the blue tarps laid out around the cabin floor, but the hairs on the back of my neck told me that I needed to leave. But I couldn't move, and even if I could, I'd trip on my poorly fitted shoes trying to run down the front steps. My mother had been calling my name, and I finally heard her, my eyes meeting hers. She asked me if I could move, and somehow I was able to muster a very uncomfortable, nope. She let out a defeated sigh. I could see flashes of hesitation and conflict across her face. She told me she'd be right back and headed up the wooden steps to the second floor. As soon as she was out of sight, it got even colder. I started to hear a voice in my head that did not feel like my own. It whispered, "They're here, they're here, they're here." My eyes darted back and forth across the tarps, light blue on the left, dark blue on the right, frantically searching for whoever they were. Light blue, dark blue, light blue, dark blue, until I saw them, in my mind. Two shadowy silhouettes, vaguely man-shaped but definitely dangerous. I remember the door was still open behind me. "They want in," the voice whispered again. "They want in. They want in." My mother was gone no more than 30 seconds, and I would say that for me it felt like years, but really it felt like I was stuck in a place without time and without end. She and the other two counselors made it down the steps with their stuff, grabbed me by the shoulders, spun me around, and headed us all back out the cabin. I later learned that the two counselors were awoken by the sounds of animals scratching and banging on the walls and under the floorboards. The growling of a bear, the rustling of the tarps. Grabbing their flashlights, they shined it around the cabin and saw something trying to poke up through the tarps, wherever it could. They said they felt they needed to grab all of their stuff, flip on the lights, run up the second floor, and be loud. Make noise, sing, do anything. Just be loud. They sang nursery songs for a bit, but nothing was really changing. One of them said she heard something inside her say that they needed to be louder. That's when we really heard them and came to get them. I knew that if we had stayed in the founder's cabin, which was more soundproofed and further away, we would never have heard them and never have gotten them. Fortunately, just getting them out of the cabin is not where the story ends. We made a quick, very needed stop at the bathroom near our cabins and then headed back to the owl roost. I remember as I laid curled up in my sleeping bag in a sort of in-between awake and asleep state, starting to see the shadowy figures again. The moment they began to take shape in my mind, they were immediately replaced by a bright golden white light that filled the entire space of my mind. I remember knowing who it was. I looked up in my mind and saw two men dressed in clothes with the same golden white glow. One I didn't recognize, but the other was my grandpa. He died when my mom was 12, but he looked just like his pictures. He smiled at me, and though he didn't move his mouth, I heard him say that I was safe. They were gone, and they could not hurt me. I could still feel him holding me, even while he stood in front of me, and he stayed with me until I fell asleep. Talking with the two counselors the next morning, I learned that they also saw two men in golden light. One said she didn't recognize one of them, my grandpa, but that the other was her father who had died when she was young. The rest of the week at camp, I still hated Hawk Haven, but I never felt afraid again. I always felt safe and in control. I also always put my shoes on properly. Also, side note, apparently my mother sadly did not see either her dad or the counselor's dad. She just fell asleep. But we suspect that that was because she was never afraid at any point. She was only ever mad. As soon as we stepped into the cabin, she recognized what was going on based on her own experiences growing up and was simply pissed at the unknown figure's audacity to come into her camp and mess with her girls. I think she's nuts, LOL. Thanks for reading my story, Sarah.
Oh my gosh. Well, wait, I will say, I like ending with this one because it was horrifying.
Gripping.
But it ended so nicely.
Beautifully.
And I feel complete.
A well-rounded story. Yes, and horrifying though. What's funny is we have pictures, and I was looking at these pictures while I was also watching The Parent Trap.
Aww.
And so it was like summer camp, and like it just reminded me of that movie, and it was cute.
Oh my gosh, these are pictures of the camp. Okay, we'll put them in. Also, if anybody's watching this and you attended that camp, let us know. That would be really, really crazy.
Oh yeah, if they had like they both went to the same camp.
Yeah.
That would be cool.
And if you had an experience, tell us.
Even more so, yeah.
Horrifying, sickening, disgusting, but I feel
Who
complete.
is they?
I don't want to know.
Who is they?
I don't want to know.
Neither does Petey. He shook it off.
No, we're good.
That was spooky though. That was really spooky. So thanks to every single one of you who sent in your stories today. This was a fun episode. A little longer, huh?
Yeah, but I liked it.
I did too. So like this video if you like it, share it with your friends if you feel compelled to do so, and subscribe for more. Also, if you have a story that you'd like to send us, you can email us ghostiespod@gmail.com. Follow us on Instagram at ghostiespod, and you can join our Patreon, patreon.com/ghosties. It's also written in the description. We're going live on Saturday.
So
at
1 p.m. Central Time.
Like to join in, you can come do that. Otherwise, you've got anything else to say, Petey?
Okay. Little sniff. Yep. That's it.
See you Monday.
Goodbye.